sub-3 marathon. Well, that's an elite club. Not a lot of runners are able to run a sub-3 marathon, but let's see if we can get you there. What does it take to run a sub-3 hour marathon? Well, you got to run 26.2 miles at 6:51 per mile. That's your average pace. If you can do that, you're going to be able to run a sub-3 hour marathon. Now, there's a lot of things that you're going to be doing in training and also in your racing career that is going to prepare you to run a sub-3 marathon. And the first thing that I want to encourage you to do is, if this is a goal, if this is something that excites you, that you want to chase after, let's be focused on the process of training. We don't want any kind of run less, run faster gimmicks. You are only going to run a fast marathon if you really dedicate yourself to the process of training, not taking any shortcuts. And really what running a fast marathon comes down to from a training perspective is your endurance. Can you run a decent pace for a really long period of time? And one of the best ways to improve your endurance is to run more. And so when it comes to the marathon, and really the longer the event, the more this is important, mileage is going to be very, very critical to any success that you're going to have. So if you're thinking about running a sub-3 marathon or thinking about training for a sub-3 marathon, let's first make sure that you are comfortable running relatively higher mileage. You're not going to get there running 20 to 30 miles a week unless you are extraordinarily genetically talented. Now, that's not most of us. Most people can't just run a couple miles every day and then run a sub-3 marathon. It takes a lot of talent to be able to do that. And if you're like me, if you don't have as much talent as the guy next to me on the team, you got to work for that. And what is really going to help you is getting comfortable with higher mileage levels. Now, I think a lot of runners who are doing marathons are comfortable running 30 to 40 miles a week. That is going to get you to a good marathon finish, particularly if it's structured really well. But if you have bold and ambitious marathon goals, your training is necessarily going to be bold and ambitious. So let's work on getting comfortable with higher mileage levels. 40 plus, I'm talking 50, 60 plus miles a week. That is going to give you the endurance and the strength to be able to run 26.2 miles at a much faster pace. Now, of course, I'm not saying just run high mileage during your peak marathon training weeks. Of course, we're going to get to some high mileage weeks while we're training for the marathon, but you need to be fairly comfortable running these mileage weeks almost any week of the year. So high mileage is something that is beneficial year round. Let's not get too far away from running a decent weekly mileage number. So let's say, for example, you peaked at 50 miles per week during your last marathon training cycle. You should start to get comfortable with running 40, 45 miles per week. Then when you're marathon training, you can maybe start in the 40s and then build up even higher and maybe get to about 60 miles per week. So you're not running your peak mileage all the time. What you're doing is you're running slightly lower than that peak mileage, but you're maintaining it for a really long period of time. In fact, most of the year. You're never really running too much lower than that unless it's a recovery week or a taper week or even a week that you're taking off from running entirely, maybe after a goal race. But you're going to run this fairly high mileage much more consistently and then reach for an even higher weekly mileage peak while you're marathon training. The next thing to look for is the distance of your long run. Now, I've had a lot of runners ask me, how in the world did you run a 2:44 marathon when that was your first marathon? Your first crack at the 26.2 mile distance, you ran 2:44 and qualified for Boston by over 20 minutes. It's like, well, I've been running a lot of miles for a long time before I ever even thought about running for a marathon. And that's what I'm getting at with this video. Let's make sure that we're running a lot for a long time, and that is going to best influence our performance on race day. So for example, when we're talking about a long run, it doesn't matter if you're training for a 5K or a half marathon, let's get our long run up into the double digits and let's keep it there almost every week of the year. At no point should you skip running long runs for any long period of time. And if you do have very ambitious marathon goals, let's get that long run up to maybe 14, 15, and longer very consistently. Because that means when you start marathon training, you don't have to spend all that time building the long run distance because you're already there. Then you can just do more of those long runs. You can start doing more challenging long runs, like including some goal pace running in the long run itself. And that's going to better prepare you for the marathon. All right, now that we've talked about the training, let's talk about some racing. Because if you're going to run a fast marathon, you kind of have to be fast in other race distances too. And the best predictor for how you are going to do in a marathon, or really any race, is how you've already done in previous races. This is not like the stock market. Past performance does impact future performance. And so if you want to run a sub-3 marathon, we have to look at equivalent performances. How competitive is a sub-3 marathon? Let's say you want to run 2:59:59, just sneak under there. Well, that is pretty competitive, and you need to have competitive race times in other distances as well. So for example, if your 5K is around 18:15, I'd say that you're the type of runner who's probably ready to go for a sub-3 marathon attempt. Likewise, if your 10K PR is around 38 minutes, 38 flat, you're also probably the type of runner who's ready to go for a sub-3 attempt. And for the half marathon, I'd love to see a runner somewhere around the 85-minute mark for the half. And those kinds of race times tell me that this runner is fast. This runner has the speed to carry themselves to a sub-3 hour marathon finish. They just need to do the training, and they need to build the endurance. Once you do that training and that work to prepare yourself, all the speed that you've built up in those shorter distances is really going to help you carry you across that finish line. So if you are a runner that dreams big and you want to go after that sub-3 marathon attempt, remember, it's all about the training first. Make sure you're comfortable running relatively high mileage. Make sure that you're comfortable running double-digit long runs, preferably in the 15+ mile range, and always look for equivalent performances. Look for your 5K, 10K, and half marathon times that are somewhere around 18:15, 38 minutes, and 85 minutes. Those are equivalent in terms of their competitiveness to a 2:59 marathon. I also want to give you guys some extra resources, different videos and articles and things like that to help you along in your marathon journey. So I'll include some links next to me, different videos that we have, and also links underneath this video on YouTube with links to our coaching programs and training programs and other articles that go into more detail about how to structure your marathon training.